Virus consequences number 2, relationships. Now, I'm no one to give advice in relationships. My areas of expertise are design, art, and tech. Nevertheless, I think the exercise of placing a different subject every single day and following the logic is good for all of us, and it prepares us to deal with problems in the future. So, back to relationships, it would only be logical to think that the virus is going to impact them both in a positive and a negative manner. In a negative manner, I would imagine the logic would be that a lot of couples that have been together for, say, 10 years and each one does their own routine suddenly now have their routines broken and have to deal with each other, and will discover that they actually hate each other's guts. And as a consequence, after the virus, we will probably see that there will be a lot of divorces happening. On the other end, we will see many couples that come out stronger out of this process, because as you're dealing with a crisis, you connect stronger as a couple. And then you also, I would imagine, would get to value the roles that each one does. Having to look after the kids all of a sudden is very clearly an enormous job, keeping the house together or providing the necessary resources, whichever of the sexes is doing whichever part. So just like within the married people or the long relationship people, we'll see positive and negative results. I think we will also see similar things within young people who are mostly using dating apps. Within the dating apps, if I was to get the data from, say, Tinder or Raya or Bumble, I would imagine that there will be a spike, very noticeable, just before the quarantine process, where everyone is in a hurry to try to find that perfect partner to hunker down, almost in a Hollywood movie style. Nevertheless, probably after that first period, the amount of use of these dating apps is going to go down. And that would be logical, I guess, because after a while, people want to slow down the amount of exposure, and they will think it twice before continuing to simply hook up with people. It would be therefore logical that some of that will echo afterwards, after the virus is over, and it would linger in people's minds and become part of a new practice. To what extent will it really change things? I don't know, maybe it's a few percentage points, but it would be interesting to follow that process and see what happens. At the same time, I think, I believe I read somewhere that obviously it is beauty is one of the first things that we choose our couples by in dating apps. And it would be logical to suddenly realize for many of us that when you're hunkered down with someone for months, beauty is not the most important quality. Actually, all of a sudden, we will be very interested in someone who has empathy, who has a good character, who can deal with problems, etc., etc., etc. And I think, again, the memory of that period will continue to some degree after the virus is over. So yes, we will probably once again become quite superficial, but there will be more points given to the importance of other values. In a much longer term, I would imagine that there has been an entire generation that maybe for quite a while has been going into quick dating routines in which whenever there is the first sign of a problem, they're immediately dismissing the other person, saying next and going on the next date. All of a sudden, when you have trouble with someone today and you're forced to deal with it, I think many couples will come out strengthened. They will realize that they can actually deal with a problem and that they feel better about it later. Again, another element that should switch things in a positive way. Finally, whatever happens with dating apps, I think it will also be interesting to remember that last time you went to a supermarket to buy canned goods and toilet paper, you might have noticed that a lot of the condoms were gone too. So as a consequence, I would imagine that we're going to be looking at a lot more babies. We will have a baby boom, as ironic as it might seem, but towards Christmas. And the last idea I think would be important to have is for those who are in neither of these scenarios, it would only be logical to think that Pornhub and other sites of that kind, their stocks are going to shoot up. And so will erectile dysfunction, so will premature ejaculation, and so will reports of unsatisfied partners after. So I guess kids don't do it too much. That's all I can think of. Again, this is just a quick exercise. I have no idea about relationships, so please feel free to give me your opinions of what you think might be the repercussions of the virus on relationships. Please suggest subjects for the rest of the days. This is going to be going on for a while. Share it if you think it's worth it. And that's it. Thank you for your time. Look after yourself, guys. Take care.